Hello and welcome to the Form Designer Overview. In this video, we'll show you all of the powerful user interface design capabilities at your fingertips in AgilePoint version 8. Now in this video, we're going to cover form or UI design. And in the case of AgilePoint, a user interface can be a standalone data entry sort of application, or can be a part of a business process. In either case, what you'll see over the course of this video will apply to both scenarios. So let's get started. We'll select the app builder from the portal menu. Now from the left-hand side, I'm going to pull up the application that I'd like to edit. Okay, so this brings up all of the application components. Let's just scroll down and we'll find the form that we're going to edit. Okay, so we'll take a look at some of the specifics of this form in just a moment, but before we do that, let's walk through all of the UI elements and settings capabilities you have to control the behavior of your forms. On the left-hand side, we have the toolbox, which consists of more than 65 configurable user interface elements, each of them optimized for certain data types, and each with their own validation built in. You'll find that these are broken out into three major categories, the first of which are common controls, advanced controls, as well as Telerik components. So starting off with common controls, you'll see a number of these are already on our form. By that I mean things like headings, text boxes, buttons, drop-down lists, file upload controls, images, currency, even repeating elements like a subform or a grid. Underneath advanced controls, they start to become a little more specific. Things like a phone control that can be validated for a local phone number, US-based number, or something that's dialed internationally. Email controls, social security, ratings, pop-up select, even the ability to bring in external data via an auto lookup. And then lastly, we have the Telerik controls that we've OEM'd and brought into the product at no cost. Across the top are the various form settings options. Starting from the left, as you can see here, I can save my work, or if I'm done for the day and would like to release the lock that I have on the application, I can save and check it in, or simply undo my checkout. Underneath print, I can print out my form or save it as a PDF. Cut, copy, paste, and delete operations. Undo and redo, as well as form settings. So under form settings, you're going to see 5 categories. I can give my form a title. As you can see in my case, I've simply applied a label to my form, which gives me a little more control. The title style, title alignment, label positioning, font options, and again, this can be controlled by CSS, apply a background image, and center that image, as well as ensure that this form inherits my global style sheets. Now, as you can see here, I have the ability to toggle between AgilePoint's classic forms theme and the modern theme that's been introduced in version 8, a CSS class, as well as the ability to control the form background or header. Underneath actions, I can add additional buttons to the bottom of my form. As you can see here, I have a submit, cancel, and save button that I can rename as I so desire. I can also optionally include a reset form, which will clear all of the data entered into the fields, showing the print button, as well as showing save as PDF. And then lastly, under the Advanced tab, cell padding and row spacing options, the ability to enable multilingual applications, ask for a validation summary, as well as confirmation on both submit or save. Sections are going to be handy if I want to break up multiple components or multiple areas of my form. Rather than have an endless scroll sort of scenario, I can break this form up into multiple sections. So as you can see here, I have a default section. If I wanted to add a second section, I can do that pretty easily. Underneath settings, I can control the navigation style of my form, show a navigation bar, as well as other navigation options. For layout, controlling the style of the navigation bar. And then under appearance, I can give my form background colors as an example. Okay, next we'll take a look at CSS. So here we can apply CSS on a per form basis, as well as for the entire application. And similarly here with JavaScript, per form or for the entire application. Next, you'll see columns. I can always add more, but it's difficult to remove columns to your layout. The preview button, this is going to be very useful for you as you're building your application. This enables you to test your application logic, your lookups, your rules as an example. As you can see here, I can view the form JSON, as well as export or import the form. So I can always reuse elements that I've created, even in unrelated applications. Under the library, you're going to see all of the controls that have been used. Access to form data, as well as a rule builder. We'll cover this again in just a second here. Bulk edit, if I wanted to mark a number of fields, say invisible or read only as an example. And then for row scale, I can change the row height here. Okay, so let's look at this application here. There's a number of fields that I want to walk through. The first of which here is the name field, which is a text box. Now, though there are differences in the various controls that AgilePoint supports, you'll find that you configure them in a very similar manner. By that I mean you'll see the same 5 tabs here at the top. Taking the General tab to start with, you'll see here the label. This is what gets shown outwardly to the user, as well as the internal name. Now in this case here, you're seeing that this particular field has been bound to a data entity. Down below, under the default value, you'll see that we have a system token here. So let's show you how we would do this. So to pre-populate a field with data, I would first expand out the app data column. And as you've seen in prior videos, there are a number of categories here underneath application data. The first of which are all of the fields on our form, so we don't need that for now. I also have a data source section. Now this is where I would show the data that I've bound to this application. And then lastly here is system data. Now to pre-populate this field here with the user's details, we would go into system data, and we'll scroll down to the section with the user-related tokens. Here we go. So here you're seeing things like user email, user full name, and to pre-populate this, I would simply drag the user full name token underneath default value. Now, though we mentioned that you configure the various controls the same way, the secret sauce, or the specific elements to a given control, will always be found underneath the Configure tab. So here, I can mark this as a required field, show a validation message, specify the maximum length, and even enable barcode scanning when used on a mobile device. Underneath Appearance, I can control the font, the size of the font style, as well as any background colors. But again, this is typically controlled via CSS. And then I can optionally apply CSS classes for this particular field. Underneath behavior, I can enable this control or mark it as read only, enable right to left, or make this control visible. And then lastly, under the advanced field, specific validation masks, formats, as well as JavaScript. Now the last piece that I'll touch on here is rules or business logic. And with AgilePoint's Form Designer, these can be applied at multiple levels of your application depending on your requirement. So underneath these drop-down boxes here, you're going to see a series of rules that control showing or hiding the elements on the form. So if I click on the button for rules, at the top here, I have my condition. So when this condition is met, then take the following actions. So as you can see here, if the request category is equal to access request, then we're going to show and hide a variety of controls. So here you're seeing the field for request category. So to build out this condition, I would simply drag request category is equal to, and then whatever my desired value is. So when that condition is met, I'm going to show and hide various controls as you're seeing here. But beyond that, I have the ability to execute scripts and methods, set values, set dates, enable or disable controls, mark a field as mandatory, as well as trigger lookups to external systems. Now, as you're seeing here, I can have multiple rules. They can be chained together. Right? Regardless of the complexity, I build my logic the exact same way. So if we close out the field level rule builder and go back to our toolbar, you'll see here that I also have a form-wide rule builder. As far as implementing the rules are concerned, I build them the exact same way. The big difference being here that I have additional control as to when the rule fires. Upon form load, before or on submit, as well as after submit. And the last piece that we'll touch on here are the device-specific layout tools. Now, AgilePoint is a responsive UI designer, so I don't often need to tailor a layout for, say, a mobile phone or a tablet, but I do have that flexibility, for instance. So as you can see here, I have my default view of a PC browser, and I can see what this form is going to look like across various devices in various orientations. So let's take the phone and landscape as an example. If I wanted to remove a control, I can do so here. And I can also rearrange, right? Perhaps bring the more important fields to the top of my form. Okay, that concludes the content for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time.